We're thrilled to have you with us. Hopefully you've discovered our chat page. If you click on the watch and listen page on our website, there is a chat page there for you. It just went up tonight. God bless our webmaster, Chris Marr, who is just a maniac, and was able to get it up. And so that's there. So take advantage of our chat page and take advantage of the fact that we are thrilled to have a real Renaissance man with us tonight. And that, of course, is Stan Deyo. Stan, I recently came across the whole hollow earth theory. And at first, it really troubled me. And then I looked at some of the scripture. You know, you look at Christ going down into, you look at Abraham's bosom. And now I'm starting to go, maybe there is something to this. How have you approached the hollow earth theories, and have you come to any conclusions yourself?
Well, like you, Vincent, until recently, I thought that the people talking about a hollow earth were, to coin a phrase, a bit off the planet. I didn't really believe in that. I thought it was just selling books or whatever they were doing. But under a new understanding of how gravity works that I've put into formula form and into animation form, and I'm writing a paper to release to people, to solve the gravitational fields that I've observed, to solve them required that the equations required that the planets have a void between the surface and the inner core of the planet. It makes a hollow shell in there. And then I got to thinking, gosh, this is like hollow Earth. Except why would you have holes at the poles? And then I realized that the gravitational field bent at the poles, and that it would periodically open up and let heat out both the North and South Pole, and then close, not only on Earth, but on some, on all other planets, on the Sun, on galaxies, which have a supermassive black hole in the center of them, spinning around like the core of a planet would. All these things do have the same type of behavior, and it's periodic. Now, what that means is, like, if you stir a glass of water, and you're looking through the side of the glass, and you put in a bit of sand and a bit of iron filings, the sand being lighter than the iron, and you stir it up, you'll see that there's a little pile at the bottom of the glass underneath, like a tornado vortex of water spinning. And a little pile stacks first the iron filings, and then on top of that, the lighter sand. Mm-hmm. And if you keep watching, that little vortex of water over the sand starts to bob up and down very slowly as it gets tired. And what it's showing you is it's periodic, that it goes up and down, open and close type things. And this is what is happening to our planet. Then I remembered in Scripture, like you, I thought, well, okay, he's going to be cast into a bottomless pit. Well, what's a bottomless pit? The inside of a sphere. And then I thought, all right, well, now, like you did, Abraham's bosom and what do you call it? I want to say Tahom, but it's, is that right? Tartarus, okay. Yeah. In Tartarus, and that's down inside the earth. The Greek legends talk about the river Styx separates us from the underworld, where the spirits, the dead spirits live. Right. And I know from other research that there is a layer of water around the planet that's only between average 5 and 15 miles from the surface. And that whole shell of water is called the Moho discontinuity, which is a long word for saying that's where earthquake waves bounce from. And we can tell that that area is full of hot water that has a density that's 3.5 times that of water. It's got a lot of dissolved minerals in it. And that's the same water, that volume of water, that was used to make the flood of Noah. The scientists today saying we don't have enough water on the planet, we don't have enough ice to flood the planet. They have two mistakes at hand. One, the planet was 20% smaller in diameter at the time of the flood. Two, when the core of the planet started to expand, which all planets do as they age, and all stars do, and all galaxies, when our core of our planet started to expand, it stretched that layer of water and made it like hypodermic syringes and shot hot water up into the oceans to make the flood. The 40 days of rain didn't help, but that was a minor thing compared to the fountains of the deep that were broken up and shot hot water, and you'll find this in Hebrew, hot water up in to fill the oceans and flood the lands. So the hollow earth theory, to me, is a valid point. And now it is a scientific thing to me that we do have polar openings. And on my website there, on standeo.com, you'll see Holly's put up a link today to your show images that we're talking about.
Right.
And if you go to that link, it'll take you to pictures of the gravitational field, what I call the containment field, and how the hollow Earth looks under the field I'm developing. And then it's got pictures of the North Pole of Mars and the spirals that form as the containment gravity field spins around, just like that glass of water. And you'll see Tethys 2, the North Pole of the moon of Saturn, with that same circular pattern, one of its poles. Then you'll see Saturn's North Pole with spinning splash rings around it, just like nobody's business. You'll have two pictures of that there. So this thing I'm talking about, this theory of gravitational, an extra gravitational force, is now being supported by what NASA has said they have discovered in Pioneer 10 and 11, which are out there about 75 times the distance of Earth from the sun right now, trying to leave the solar system, but they can't. They're being pulled back by a weak gravitational force that NASA said it's a new force that we never knew existed. Well, my theory, or hypothesis at this point, if you wish, does explain that weak force and show how it works and show why planets have to orbit exactly where they do and nowhere else, or they're unstable, and why moons do the same thing. And I've got pictures of that there that I've taken from my paper that I'm writing now so people can see it, plus links to another guy's website, Neil Adams. He's what they call an inker for cartoons, comic books. And he's a brilliant mind himself, and he's made animations of real pictures of the Earth's surface and of Mars and various moons, and he's shown how they too have expanded from the original formation when the solid surface was all joined together, but now it's cracked and spreading apart, or spread apart in catastrophic moves. It's more like it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that brings me to a point that about 3 hours ago, in the South Pacific, on the west of Chile in South America, at Easter Island, and just north of there are earthquakes occurring. 5.1 and 5.6 at Easter Island, two of them, and then one 2 days before that up there, it's around the same value, and a bunch over in Chile. All of these things, if you look at the picture I've got there and click the big picture of it, all of these quakes are on fracture zones that are connected to the tectonic plate bridge along South America, which is very active at the moment. Even Bolivia has had a landslide, a huge one, just happened, which is a result of Earth stretching, moving. We're starting another expansion phase, I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, I think it's when the poles open periodically and then close, for this polar hole business. And that may be why it says an angel will come down to the earth in Revelation of John. It says an angel will come down and let these terrible insects or things, mm-hmm. whatever they are, these beasts come out of the inside of the earth to afflict mankind. It's something is coming out from inside the earth.
Exactly.
That's another thing that tells you.
And we can get into the Nephilim and everything else. I don't have the intellect you do, but God pops things into my head from time to time. And you are watching Crossing the World. My name's Vincent David Jericho, and we are thrilled to have Stan Deyo on the line with us. When I was in high school, I had this thought come over me. We have the North and South Pole. We have the Bermuda Triangle, and it just made sense in my head. Could we have an east and west pole? And I drew a line through the Earth, and lo and behold, where I come out, there in that part of the I forget the Sargasso Sea, I believe, where they have all kinds of problems as well. And so I started doing a little bit of research, not on the level that you do, but more just intuitive as far as, okay, what the heck is going on? And then I started to read about pole shifts, and I know that you're doing a lot of research on that right now. What's your research and what's your gut telling you as far as what's happening with our magnetic poles?
Well, it's interesting. In January of this year, the British Geological Survey published an article saying, look out because I think we're in the middle of a pole shift starting, and in their illustrations on their website, they show that you can have two south poles, maybe more, two north poles, maybe more, during the reversal of the poles, because it's requiring that hot molten core of the planet but below the empty part we're talking about, below that empty shell, that hot molten core does an inversion spin, turns itself inside out in essence, and flip-flops. But during that, because it's spinning, it wobbles the poles all over the place, and you can see on the website, and they're saying at the British Geological Survey, they're saying that the analysis of an anomaly called the South Atlantic Anomaly over the South Atlantic Ocean, obviously, is in a state of flux, and it's spreading west and weakening. Now, you say, well, okay, what does that mean? Well, it shows that it's the beginning of a change of the Earth's liquid core and its spin dynamic, which makes our magnetic field. When the magnetic field of the Earth weakens, it lets all kinds of radiation in, particularly ultraviolet frequencies and some gamma radiation. It lets it in, and it starts to burn people. We had, in 2008, we had contact with people in the Cape Verde Islands, which is just off Mauritania, off the west coast of Africa. And that was the upper edge of the South Atlantic anomaly as it spread, opening up a hole in the upper atmosphere. We had them calling in and saying, gee, we've been sent home from school, the kids have, because we've got this problem with the skin and with nausea and a kind of pinpricking. In fact, I've just found the email from the guys down there. He says, yesterday and today I spoke to some people who were feeling disoriented and with dizziness. The hospital here, an emergency room in the second largest town on the island, were packed with people with symptoms of vertigo, diarrhea, joint pains. And doctors here could give no diagnosis for the vertigo. They prescribe medicine for vertigo, but some people, including my mother, still feel the dizziness, and the medicine doesn't help. And then we went on to talk with him, and he said that school children were being sent home with diarrhea and sickness and whelps, and that when you stood out in the sun, you could feel like pinpricks, real sharp pinpricks from the sun hitting your skin. This is not normal, and it's not healthy. So that's telling us that South Atlantic Anomaly movement that I was just telling you about from the British Geophysical Society, that's telling you that definitely there's something wrong with the magnetic field. And, I mean, astronauts don't fly through that zone. The International Space Station does, but it's shielded. 10 times a day it goes through that anomaly in its orbit. And they have to shut off cameras and shield them so the radiation doesn't fog the film or ruin the camera circuitry. This is in progress as we speak, which absolutely encourages me in what I've been doing, that I am right, that we are seeing the pole shift begin.
Stan, when I started as a talk show host, I heard about all of these, the lunatic fringe and the tinfoil hats, and I was a big-time talk show host, and I sort of looked down my nose, but the further I went in my career when I was on terrestrial radio, I started to open my eyes and my mind and go, you know what? Some of these people aren't so crackers as they're made out to be, and there is a lot more that we're not seeing, we're not knowing, we're not understanding. Finally, leading up to my question, and this is, I don't know how to ask the question better, so forgive me. How much does the government know that they aren't telling us? Everything from pole shifts to the New Madrid going pop to whatever. I wish I knew how to ask that more succinctly. Take it wherever you like.
Vincent, look, the government knows a lot more than they're saying, but it's not necessarily sinister that they're not telling you everything. I'm in favor of holding back officially certain things from the public. And the reason I say that is because the public, we've seen how they act badly in crisis. During the Katrina disaster, there was looting, rioting. During the hurricanes that threatened Florida, when an announcement comes out there's a big hurricane coming, people stand on top of each other trying to buy food and gas and water like they had never thought of that before. And in 2 days, they empty all the food off the shelves. There's almost panic buying. And if you look at a much bigger disaster, like not a hurricane, but a massive earthquake or series of earthquakes that decimates 25% of the settled area and the coastlines of America, then people are going to start shooting each other to steal resources, food for their family. They're going to become like outlaws, or like tribe or gang warfare. So when the government says, okay, we're not going to officially tell you about Planet X or Hollow Planet or UFOs and aliens, or the presence of Planet X or some near-Earth object. When they say that, that's official. But what they do is they release information through unofficial sources. I've had the phone calls from unofficial sources, and they say, okay, leak this out, basically, without approaching you officially.
Sure.
And that allows you to be discredited if you get too wide a following and people start to panic. This, that guy's a nut.
Sure.
Nobody ever talked to him. But that way, they release the information so that the thinking individuals can say, okay, there might be something to this. I will prepare my home or my business or my family. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, I do.
It's not sinister.
Well, and I can understand that. And at the end of the day, it's God's plan and it's in God's hands. But we've got to have our ears open. We need to be praying and we need to be listening. I live in Springfield, so the New Madrid sneezes, I get wet. The New Madrid's been sneezing a lot. Greenbrier. Is Greenbrier a result, from what you can tell, of the drilling techniques they're using to go after the oil and gas, or is the New Madrid quaking and shaking and getting ready to go pop?
Well, I'm certainly looking at that area there. The Greenbrier thing, if you zoom over it in Google Earth, which I've done here at length over the last few days, is a very busy, it's kind of a widespread area where these little quakes are occurring all over the place, and that it's not just in one little place where a well is or something. So I don't think that it's just the gas wells being drilled there. In addition to that, if you look over in Oklahoma, in the last 2 months, I guess, there's been a tremendous number of earthquakes there in Oklahoma as well. These things tell me that there's action along that horizontal fracture leading into the New Madrid fault line. Now, it may be that this will pass. It may be that there's underground detonations being initiated by the government to relieve stress on these fault lines so they don't have a big bang and have a bunch of little bangs. I've seen them do that in northern West Australia. They came in and they averted an 8.3 to 8.5 earthquake that would have wiped out probably 75% of the buildings in Perth if they'd allowed it to slip. So what they did was they went up and they blasted along the feeder tributary fault lines to relieve the stress in small quakes over a period of several weeks, which avoided the massive destruction of Perth. Now, they can do that here, and they may be doing that. That may be what we're seeing in Greenbrier or around the area there, or in Oklahoma. I do feel, though, that the New Madrid fault line is going to have its day shortly, and it's also connected through Louisiana down into the Gulf of Mexico, where the Mississippi exits. That whole area in the Gulf of Mexico was damaged a long time ago when the Chicxulub meteor impact created the Gulf of Mexico.
Right.
And, it fractured stuff. It sent the debris from the surface there up into Texas and into Louisiana. And that fracture didn't go away. It's settled, and it's got sediment that's kind of joined it together. But then we've got all the oil drilling out there, and then we've got that deep oil catastrophe just happened. Right. And the oil that came out of there is still coming out along fractures 20 to 30 miles away from the oil head. They haven't sealed those, but they're not talking about it. Right. And that is the threat there is that the oil and gas that has been taken out of the Gulf over the 100 years that people have been doing it or so, that has created cavities. There's small cavities in the rock, and there are large cavities in some places, that has weakened the whole structure of the floor of the Gulf of Mexico in places where they've been drilling and extracting. So if a shake does come, that may fall and produce tsunamis along the Gulf Coast from Mexico right around to Florida. There are some really serious problems building up, and I do have resources inside BP and places like that are telling me this stuff, and I can't quote them, but there's serious problems they're building up in just that alone, which is tied to the New Madrid fault. I
suspect you and I have seen some of the same maps and what our country may look like if some of this happens. I want to go back one step because you're somebody I trust. The Bible talks about at the end times massive earthquakes leveling mountains. Is that what's going to happen, to the best of your understanding, if and when the poles shift? Is that going to decimate everything, or is that just going to be everybody gets seasick and pukes on their shoes, or what's going to happen, do you think, when that happens?
Well, there's two kinds of poles. There's the geomagnetic poles, and then there's the geophysical, which is your spin axis.
Right.
And they're different. Now, the spin axis, if that changes, yes, you're going to see continental drift become continental catastrophe. It's going to be sudden movements and expansions and huge earthquakes as the Earth's surface splits. And then prophecy does say that there will be one almighty earthquake greater than any that we've ever seen. And I think that will be a result of the core expansion of the planet and possibly the spin altering of the planet at the same time. The magnetic axis, if that flip-flops, I see more danger in ultraviolet penetration of the surface, heat from the sun, and having to hide in caves and out of sunlight for a period of weeks until the magnetic shift has completed and we've got protection in the magnetosphere from external radiation again. It will also probably be like an EMP pulse when that occurs, allowing radiation to, in essence, hit chips and a lot of electronic equipment and ruin it, short the circuits out and burn the thing and put us back into the 19th century as far as our technology. And that will be on the side of the planet that's probably facing the sun when
it hits.
This weakened field hits. It may be all over the whole planet, but I don't know.
This will probably be our last question. Go to Stan Deyo's website, standeyo.com, and it's DEYO. All kinds of resources available for you there, and you can learn so much more about Stan and all of the things that he's into. And again, Stan, I want to thank you for being so gracious. It's just been a joy for me to have you as a guest tonight.
Well, my apologies for being 5 minutes late.
No. That was perfect timing because that way I can run my commercial break at the top of the hour, get everything all set. No, your timing was perfect. Now, Planet X. I've been reading about this for years, been going, wait a minute. And now I'm not so quick to discount it. I'm still trying to learn and understand. You've got about 5-6 minutes here. Pretend that we're, grade, I hate to say a grade 10 science class because they're next to, but we're elementary in our understanding of science. Explain to us as best as you understand what's happening with Planet X and black holes and how is that going to impact us in the near future from what your research is telling you.
Well, black holes we'll leave for another discussion,
Sure.
But the Planet X is an unknown mass in our solar system that NASA has noticed and several astronomers have noticed over the years. It's out there somewhere, but we can't find it. And we know it's there because its gravitational influence on the planet Neptune and Uranus is causing a little bobble in their orbit as they go around the sun. And you can tell from that bobble that there's something massive out there. Now, why we can't see it? It might be dark. It could be a dwarf star. And it could be a planet that is that has something wrong with the surface, so it's all dark and it can't reflect light. Whatever it is close enough to affect these planets, but not be in the kind of the equator of the solar system. You know how everything spins around the sun basically in the same orbit or same plane. It's called the ecliptic plane.
Right.
It is above that, and it's coming in fast if it is there. I've calculated, I've found an orbit that will explain it. I've predicted an orbit at 250 times the distance of the sun that the Earth is. And that particular orbit, which is predicted by the equations I've set up for the solar system by observation, that orbit will have a period of 3,600 years, plus or minus about 12 years, which is somewhat similar to what the Aztec calendar is saying and somewhat similar to what Zecharia Sitchin mentioned, even though I don't hold his work in high authority. He does mention that this planet Nibiru comes in with a 3,600-year period, and I'm finding proof of something does have that period out there. There is an orbit. Where that planet is, it's not in the equator of the solar system, that flat plane, ecliptic plane. It is above that, or below it, depending where you stand.
Sure.
But it's coming in at an angle, about 23 to 30 degree angle, and its traverse, I've calculated its speed. It would have to come into the solar system and to the inner planets and go back out. Once we see it, once it hits an orbit of, say, Mars or the asteroid belt, it'll take about 11 to 12 years for it to go around the sun and come back out in that same kind of orbital area and going back to where it belongs out in the outer solar system, because it really travels very fast as it gets close to the sun and then slows down the further away it gets out there in that 3,600-year orbit.
Sure.
So, I've got feelers out to astronomers in the southern hemisphere and here and government departments everywhere that I've got people that can tell me when they find something positive about this. I think they can anyway. And we're trying to nail this Planet X thing down. There is evidence there that something is there. NASA admits that. Where it is another issue. Will it be close? Will it be a bright star? We'll see. Will it knock something loose like a comet in the Kuiper Belt? Has it already done that? And that's going to come in and be the star called Wormwood that prophecy says will fall into the ocean and kill marine life. I don't know, but something is coming, and there's snippets of hard data that we're all finding, and plus the experiment I'm running in 17 countries right now. I've got 100 volunteers doing it. I found a way to measure the gravitational interaction of our atoms with electric current in just a wire, a vertical wire, and some little battery and some other connectors and things to do it. And this is showing that since 2008, the orientation of our atoms has flip-flopped upside down in the gravitational field for some reason.
Yep.
So that alone tells me there's something afoot.
Do you ever think to yourself or pray, Lord, it is such an honor. Thank you for allowing me to live at a time such as this?
Oh yeah, and to find out all these things, it's a great discovery trip.
Again, sir, this has been a joy and a pleasure. I pray that we can do it again. With your permission, I will send you the links. We'll get this up on YouTube, and you can do with it whatever you like, Stan. But if that's okay, we'll edit out the commercials and put it up on YouTube tomorrow.
Okay, that'd be great.
Excellent.
And we'll have to do this again and fill in the rest of the blanks.
Well, I was hoping this would be an enjoyable time for you and that we would be able to do that, but we'll talk off the air. I'll communicate with you via email tomorrow, and prayerfully we'll be able to have you back on. And again, bless you and thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Bye-bye
night now. What a gracious man. What a gracious man. And he's sort of like a Christian Einstein. I know a lot of you are zipping away. Again, I pray that you will come back. We're here every night, and we unabashedly take on the world from a Christian perspective. So if you're a Christian and you've been looking for that talk show that, hey, they're really Christians there. They don't play any games. They're just real. Prayerfully that you will come back and give us an opportunity. So we're still here for another couple of hours. I've got lots more that I want to touch on. We're going to talk about the world's economy when we come back, and this whole economic collapse. Yeah, it's coming, and we're going to talk about it some when we return. You are crossing the world.